Bryan Collins's The Power of Creativity offers a guide to cultivating lasting creative habits. The book uses the author's personal journey, interspersed with examples from the lives of creative masters, to illustrate how to overcome common obstacles like fear, self doubt, and procrastination. Strategies for strengthening mind and body, finding mentors, and understanding audience needs are explored. Emphasis is placed on consistent practice, setting achievable goals, and utilizing side projects to build momentum and avoid burnout. The text also includes practical exercises and tools to aid the reader in their creative process.
And we're diving into The Power of Creativity by Bryan Collins today. I'm really excited about this one. I'm always trying to find new ways to, well, tap into my own creative energy. And this book seems to have some really practical advice on, like, actually making that happen.
It's interesting, right? Like, how do we actually get those creative juices flowing, not just talk about it?
Exactly. And you mentioned you were looking for some concrete strategies for
Yeah.
building those, like, lasting habits and facing those fears that, can sometimes hold us back.
Yeah, those creative roadblocks that we all seem to hit at some point.
For sure. Well, this book really seems to address all of that. And it starts with this really relatable story. The author talks about how he woke up on his 30th birthday feeling like a complete failure.
Oh, wow.
I know, right? And he, like, seemingly had it all. Family, house, steady job.
It still felt unfulfilled.
Exactly. And it's because he hadn't pursued his real passion, which was writing.
That's the thing about creativity, isn't it? It's like there's this like built-in sense of what if? What if I had actually gone for it? What if I had pursued that dream?
Yeah, it's like he was living someone else's dream, not his own. And I think that resonates with so many of us who have those creative, yearnings, but haven't quite taken the leap.
Definitely. We get caught up in those external markers of success and maybe lose sight of what truly brings us joy.
So true. And the book really dives into all the fears that can kind of hold us back. Honestly, it was like reading my own diary at times.
Oh, what kind of fears are we talking about?
Oh, all the usual suspects. Fear of starting, fear of not being good
The
enough.
fear of judgment, right?
Right.
Putting your work out there for the world to see.
Ugh, yes. And the fear of actually finishing something. And believe it or not, he even talks about the fear of success.
The fear of success. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, no, it sounds kind of crazy at first, but I get it.
It's like, what happens after you achieve that success? Can you maintain it? Do the expectations become overwhelming?
Exactly. And what if you peak too early? There's all these, like, what ifs that come with success.
It's more common than we think, I bet. And what I find interesting is how this book uses examples from all these different creative fields, artists, writers, musicians, even business leaders. It
Yeah.
makes you realize that these fears, they're like universal. They're
Uh,
part of being human.
Totally. And it's so reassuring to know that, like, even those creative giants we admire, they've grappled with these same anxieties.
Takes a bit of the pressure off, right?
Definitely. Oh, there's this great quote from Vincent van Gogh that just, like, jumped out at me. He said, "If you hear a voice within you say you cannot paint, then by all means paint, and that voice will be silenced."
I love that.
Yeah.
Just do it, right?
Yeah, it's like a rallying cry for us to, like, just get over ourselves and create.
Sometimes the best way to conquer those fears is just to take action.
Mm.
The author actually tells this story about attending a writing workshop. And he hadn't written anything in years. He was terrified of being, like, found out as a fraud.
Oh, no. I can relate to that.
But as soon as he started writing, actually putting words on the page, that feeling just lifted.
Wow. So it's like giving that inner critic a timeout and just letting the creativity flow.
Exactly. Sometimes we overthink it, and that's what blocks us.
Okay, so we've talked about facing those fears. But, then there's a whole challenge of, like, how do we build those lasting habits that allow us to, like, consistently show up for our creative work?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
We can talk about inspiration all day long, but it's the habits, the routines that really make the difference.
Totally. And this is where the book gets really practical, which I love. It offers some strategies that, even a to-do list enthusiast like me can appreciate.
So spill the beans.
Yeah.
What are some of these strategies?
Well, one of the key takeaways is the power of routine. The author describes his own very specific routine, like coffee, timer, internet off.
Create that dedicated space, free from distractions.
Right. And it signals to his brain that it's time to create. It's almost like a Pavlovian response for your creativity.
I like that. A Pavlovian response for creativity. So it's like setting the stage for the creative process to unfold.
Exactly. It made me think about, like, what my own go signal could be. What about you? Do you have any like rituals that help you get into that creative headspace?
Well, you know me, I'm a big fan of my morning walks.
Yeah.
Getting out in nature, breathing fresh air, it helps clear my head and get the creative juices flowing. It's not as, structured as a timer and coffee, but it's my way of kind of shifting gears into creative mode.
I love that. It's like a moving meditation. And, the book also talks about the importance of celebrating those like small victories instead
Yeah.
of getting overwhelmed by, the enormity of a creative project.
Right, break it down.
Yeah, you focus on those short bursts of focused work and acknowledge those wins, no matter how small.
It's a great way to build momentum,
Yeah.
especially for people who, tend to get bogged down by perfectionism. Like, oh, it has to be perfect from the start.
Which is never going to happen.
Never. It's about progress, not perfection.
Mm.
And, building that creative confidence muscle by recognizing, hey, I did something today. I moved the needle forward.
Absolutely. And the book also touches on the idea of sacrifice, but not in like a restrictive, depriving yourself kind of way. It's more about making conscious choices about how we spend our time and energy.
Being intentional.
Yes. Like maybe cutting back on like mindless scrolling on social media or I don't know, binge watching shows to free up more space for, things that really fuel our creative fire.
It's about recognizing that time is our most valuable resource, especially as creative people. We have to be mindful of how we invest it.
So true. I'm so guilty of like overcommitting and then my own creative projects end up like gathering dust.
I think we've all been there. It's a constant balancing act.
It is. Okay, so we've talked about facing fears, building habits, prioritizing our time, but the book goes even deeper by like connecting physical and mental well-being to creativity.
That's fascinating. So it's not just about the mental game, but the physical as well.
Exactly. And I love how it emphasizes that, taking care of ourselves is not selfish. It's actually an investment in our creative potential.
Yeah, we often hear about that tortured artist stereotype. Like, you have to suffer for your art.
Right. But this book really pushes back on that. It's like, no, you're actually going to be more creative if you're taking care of yourself, mind, body, and spirit.
It's a more holistic view of creativity, I guess.
Mm.
And does the book, give specific examples of how to do that?
It does. It highlights the benefits of things like meditation and exercise. And it actually cites scientific studies showing how these activities can like boost our cognitive function and reduce stress.
Right, because stress is the enemy of creativity, right?
Oh, absolutely. And the author shares that running and meditation are like key parts of his own creative process. He even talks about transferring the discipline of running to his writing.
Interesting. So, if you can push through the discomfort of a long run, you can also push through those creative blocks.
Exactly. It's about building that mental resilience, which is like essential for anything challenging, really, but especially for creative pursuits.
Makes sense. And I know I could definitely use more of that mental resilience, especially when I hit those inevitable roadblocks in my work.
Me too. And the book also talks about, taking breaks from screens, which is like something we all need to hear in this digital age.
Preach.
Yeah.
I'm as guilty as anyone of spending way too much time staring at a screen.
Right. It's about giving our minds a chance to, rest and recharge, disconnect from that constant stimulation.
Yeah, give our brains a break.
And, the book shares some pretty inspiring examples of like creative masters who really prioritize their physical and mental well-being. Haruki Murakami, the novelist, is a dedicated runner.
Really? I didn't know.
Yeah. And then you have Raymond Carver, the short story writer, who, found sobriety to be essential for his best work.
That's powerful. It really shows that creativity thrives when we're taking care of ourselves.
Absolutely. It's not about deprivation. It's about creating the conditions that allow our creative potential to, really blossom.
I love that. Creating the conditions for creativity to blossom.
It's a beautiful image, right?
One of the things that really stood out to me in this book was this whole idea of side projects.
Side projects.
Yeah, Collins has this great definition. He says, when you're messing around and jamming, when it's just for kicks, when nobody gets hurt, gets paid, or gets laid, it's a side project.
Okay, I love that. So it's like pure creative play, no strings attached.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like he's giving us permission to just have fun and explore without any pressure.
Oh, I needed to hear that. I have like a whole graveyard of like abandoned side projects, but reading this made me want to like dust some of them off and just plug again.
That's the beauty of them, right?
Yeah.
They allow us to experiment and try new things without the weight of expectation.
Yeah, it's a safe space to just be messy and make mistakes and, see what happens.
Exactly. And to like discover those hidden creative gems that you might not find if you're, too focused on the outcome.
And the book actually gives some really practical tips for working on side projects.
Oh yeah. Like what?
Well, like dedicating specific times to them, breaking them down into smaller steps, and being willing to abandon ideas without guilt if they're not working.
That's so important. I think a lot of us get like attached to our ideas
Mhm.
and then we're afraid to let them go, even if they're, leading us down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, totally. And speaking of unexpected paths, guess what? The book shares the example of Matthew Weiner, the creator of Mad Men.
Madman. Okay, I'm intrigued.
He actually developed the idea for that show as a side project while he was working on other writing gigs.
No way. Really? That's incredible.
I know, right? It just shows that even hugely successful projects can have really humble beginnings.
That's so inspiring. It's like, who knows what creative seeds we might be planting right now
Yeah.
that could, blossom into something amazing down the line.
Right. And let's not forget, Collins turned his own side project into this very book we're talking about.
Oh, that's right. He did.
So it's a testament to the power of, following our curiosity and letting those creative endeavors just unfold organically.
I love that. Okay, so we've talked about like taking care of ourselves and embracing those playful side projects. But what about, finding guidance along the way? Does the book talk about mentorship at all?
It does. It actually dives deep into the idea of mentorship as an essential part of the creative journey.
Makes sense. Having someone to guide you, to offer feedback, to like be a sounding board.
Exactly. It's about seeking wisdom and support from those who have, walked the path before us, those who have navigated that creative landscape and, come out the other side with some valuable insights.
Yeah, because let's face it, the creative path could be like pretty bumpy.
Oh, for sure. So the book talks about the traditional model of mentorship and apprenticeships, like the master craftsman passing down their skills to the eager student.
Right. It's like a beautiful cycle of learning, right? Passing the torch from one generation to the next.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a model that has stood the test of time for a reason. Having a mentor can provide invaluable feedback, accelerate our learning, and offer that much needed encouragement when we're, feeling doubtful.
Definitely. Sometimes we just need someone to believe in us, especially when we're starting out and those voices of self-doubt are really loud.
So true. And the book highlights examples of famous creative masters who had mentors. Did you know Stephen King relied heavily on his wife, Tabby, for feedback on his early drafts?
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah.
That's so cool. It's like even someone as successful as Stephen King needed that support system.
Exactly. And then there's Josh Waitzkin, the chess prodigy, who, benefited from it, a diverse range of coaches throughout his career.
Ah, so it's like having those different perspectives can really help push us out of our comfort zones and, challenge us to grow.
Right. And it shows that mentorship doesn't have to be limited to just one person. It can come from multiple sources, teachers, colleagues, friends, even, authors we admire.
It's like building your own personal board of advisors.
Yeah. And the book actually suggests a pretty cool alternative to traditional mentorship. Have you ever heard of an imaginary council?
An imaginary council. That sounds
It
intriguing.
is. So it's this idea of assembling a dream team of creative masters from history, people you admire, and then consulting with them in your mind.
So like having Da Vinci or Frida Kahlo as your personal advisors.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
tapping into this collective well of creative wisdom and guidance.
Okay, I love that. It's like bringing a touch of magic to the whole mentorship thing.
Right. And the author actually shares how he uses his own imaginary counsel. It includes the writer John Cheever, and he visualizes Cheever and asks him for advice when he's facing those, creative challenges.
That's such a powerful technique. It's like even if those mentors aren't physically present,
Hmm.
we can still access their insights and perspectives.
Totally. And it shows that, mentorship can take many forms. It doesn't have to be this formal, structured relationship. It can be whatever works for you.
I like that. It's about finding what resonates with you.
So what if, we're not sure how to find a mentor in the real world? The
Mhm.
book has some practical tips for that too.
Oh, good. Because I think that's a common struggle, right? Like, where
Yeah,
do I even start?
totally. So it encourages us to be proactive, to attend workshops, join creative communities, put ourselves out there and connect with people who inspire us.
Right. Because mentors aren't just going to like fall from the sky. We have to create those opportunities for connection.
Exactly. It takes effort, but the rewards can be immense. So we've talked about like facing those creative fears earlier. But the book really dedicates a whole chapter to tackling those anxieties head on.
Okay, yeah, I remember you mentioning that. So it's not just about offering like vague encouragement.
Yeah. No, it's like, here are some actual tools and strategies you can use to overcome those fears.
So it's like a fear-busting toolkit for creative people.
Exactly. He talks about everything from the fear of starting to the fear of not being good enough to the fear of finishing, even the fear of success.
So like a comprehensive guide to conquering those creative demons.
Totally. So, for the fear of starting, he suggests creating rituals and routines to trigger that creative flow.
Right, kind of like what we were talking about earlier, setting those cues for your brain.
Exactly. And then, for the fear of not being good enough, he encourages us to, embrace imperfection and shift our focus from the end product to the process itself.
Ah, there's that process over product message again.
It's so important. It's about remembering that, creativity is a journey, not a destination.
And that those mistakes are inevitable and actually like valuable parts of the learning process.
Totally. Okay, what about the fear of judgment? That one can be so paralyzing.
Yeah, that one's a biggie. Putting your work out there can feel so vulnerable.
Right. So the book reminds us that, like, our work is not a reflection of our worth as individuals.
So like separating our creative output from our sense of self.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that can be incredibly liberating.
It's like taking the sting out of criticism. You can receive feedback without taking it personally. You can keep creating even when you face rejection.
Okay, I love that. So it's like, you're not your art. You're so much more than that.
Exactly. And then he even addresses the fear of finishing, which might seem like
The
counterintuitive.
fear of finishing.
Yeah. But for a lot of creatives, there's a sense of loss when a project is complete. It's like saying goodbye to a part of ourselves.
I totally get that. It's like post-creative project blues.
Exactly. But the book reminds us to, embrace that cyclical nature of creativity. Like endings are also beginnings.
Oh, I like that. So it's like closing one chapter and opening a new one.
Exactly. Okay, and then there's the fear of success, which I still think is a bit of a mind bender.
I know. It's like, why would anyone be afraid of succeeding? But it's real, right?
It is. And I think it comes down to that fear of the unknown, the changes that success might bring,
Yeah.
and the pressure to like live up to those expectations.
Yeah, totally. What if I can't handle it? What if it changes me? What if it's not what I thought it would be?
Right, all those what ifs.
Yeah.
But the book really tackles this head on, encouraging us to, adopt a mindset of abundance, believe in our capabilities, and embrace the possibilities that success can bring.
So it's like, you are worthy of success, and you have the power to create the life you desire.
Exactly. And he actually shares this fascinating story about Garry Kasparov, the world chess champion.
Garry Kasparov, I remember him. He was like a legend.
Oh, he was. So he used a mental strategy to overcome his fear of success during like a crucial match. He basically forced himself to like act as if he were already the winner.
Oh, wow. Like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly. And that shift in mindset actually helped him retain his title.
That's amazing. It's like our thoughts are so powerful. They can really shape our reality.
Totally. So it highlights the importance of cultivating that mindset of self-belief and like visualizing ourselves as successful even before we achieve those, external markers of success.
Okay, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what are some of the like key takeaways that you'll be carrying with you? What really resonated with you?
Well, I think what really struck me is that, creativity is not just about talent. It's about cultivating that mindset, building those habits, and creating a life that supports our creative expression.
Yeah, it's about creating those conditions for creativity to blossom.
Exactly. And those practical strategies for overcoming fear, those are pure gold.
As we've been like unpacking all this stuff, it's become clear that creativity isn't some like exclusive club.
Right. It's not just for like artists or musicians or whatever.
Yeah. It's a skill that like anyone can cultivate, and I think this book really drives that point home.
Yeah, I think that's so important, because we tend to put creativity on this pedestal and think like, oh, I'm just not a creative person. But this book really like dismantles that myth. It shows that like no matter what your field is, there are common challenges and pathways to success when it comes to creativity.
Absolutely. One of the things I found really fascinating was how the book kind of delves into the routines and habits of like creative masters throughout history.
Oh, yeah.
It's like getting a peek behind the curtain to see how these incredible minds like approach their work.
I love that. It's like a masterclass in creative thinking, right?
Totally. And you see how like routine, discipline, and, experimentation played a role in their success. Like take Salvador Dali, for example.
Oh, yeah.
He had this incredibly strict routine that he followed like religiously. He believed that consistency was key to unlocking his creativity.
Wow. So it's like showing up every day and doing the work even when you don't feel like it.
Exactly. It's not always about like waiting for inspiration to strike.
Right. And then you have someone like Paul McCartney who, like, famously came up with the melody for Yesterday in a Dream.
Oh, wow, that's right.
So it shows that, like, inspiration can come from, you know, unexpected sources,
Totally.
but we have to be open to, receiving it.
So true. It's like we can't force creativity, but we can like create those conditions for it to flourish.
Yeah, I love that.
And the book doesn't like shy away from the struggles either.
Oh, no, definitely not.
It acknowledges that the creative process can be like messy, frustrating, and even painful at times.
Oh, yeah, it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Right. And the author's like really honest about his own experiences with, creative blocks, self-doubt, and the challenges of like balancing a creative life with, everyday demands.
I think that's what makes him so relatable. He's
Yeah.
not presenting himself as this, like, guru who has it all figured out.
Yeah.
He's right there in the trenches with us, grappling with the same doubts and anxieties.
Totally. And it makes those moments of like creative breakthrough feel even more rewarding,
Yeah.
knowing that like the struggle is all part of the process.
The struggle is real,
Mm-hmm.
but so are the rewards.
Exactly. So we've talked about, making it through those tough times. And the book really does provide like so much practical advice on, everything from building those lasting habits to, overcoming those creative fears to finding mentors, building a support system.
Yeah, I love how it's, like, not just theoretical.
No, it's like, here are some actual tools you can use.
It's like a toolbox for creatives.
Right. And I love how it emphasizes the importance of self-care. Like it reminds us that creativity flourishes when we, prioritize our well-being, getting enough sleep, exercising, eating well, managing stress.
Right, it's all connected.
Totally. It's like you have to like fill your own creative well before you can pull from it.
It's a great analogy.
And let's not forget about like those side projects. The book is such a champion for, pursuing those creative endeavors that like bring us joy even if they don't have any, immediate commercial potential.
Yes, side projects are like playgrounds for our creativity.
Yeah.
They allow us to experiment, explore new ideas, and just like reconnect with that pure joy of creating without any pressure to, produce a specific outcome.
Totally. And it's a great reminder that creativity doesn't always have to be about like achieving some, grand goal.
Right.
It can be about the process itself.
Yeah, just playing and exploring and like seeing what happens.
Exactly.
One of the most, I think, powerful messages in this book is this idea that creativity is a journey, not a destination.
Oh, yeah. I love that.
It's about embracing the ups and downs, the breakthroughs and the setbacks, and trusting that, like, the process will lead us somewhere, meaningful.
It's about like showing up, doing the work, and like believing in our own creative potential, even when it feels hard.
That's the key, right? The belief in ourselves.
Totally. And as we like wrap up this deep dive, I think it's important to emphasize that this book isn't just about, making art or writing novels.
Right.
It's about tapping into our creative potential in like all areas of our lives.
Oh, I totally agree.
Bringing more creativity to our work, our relationships, our, problem solving, our everyday routines.
It's about seeing the world through like a lens of possibility.
Exactly. And embracing that, creative spark that resides within each of us.
So as we leave you to continue your own creative journeys,
Mm-hmm.
we want to leave you with like a final thought, something to ponder as you move forward.
Okay, like this.
What would your own personal like mission statement as a creative person be?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Yeah, like what values guide your creative expression? What impact do you hope to make through your work? What legacy do you want to leave behind?
It's a lot to think about.
It is, but it's worth reflecting on.
Take some time to, journal about it, meditate on it, or even like discuss it with a fellow creative friend.
Yeah, bounce those ideas around.
And on that note, we'll wrap things up for today.
It's been a great conversation.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the power of creativity.
And until next time.
Keep creating.